we all have to realize that we will face these obstacles, but it's not the end.
Yeah.
There is always light at the end of the tunnel, and we just have to find that light. We just have to be able to craft that journey. Okay, so we've now hit this hurdle. How do we get over it? Yeah. What resources can I use? So you just take one step at a time. You don't think about all of those hurdles that you think you're going to face, and then be overwhelmed by it and think, okay, I bet I might as well not start this. I might as well not do this because it's too much. I don't even know how I'm going to be able to manage. But as humans, we learn and adapt. As we face a hurdle, we figure out, okay, how I'm going to manage this. How am I going to get over this hurdle? And then you do, and then you move on. And maybe later on you'll hit the next one. And that is life.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Your Best Self podcast. My name is Robert Hurt, and today I have the honor to be interviewing Amber Khan. Now, Amber Khan is an international best-selling author. She's the founder of growbusiness.com and repurpose.com, and she's now helping purpose-driven businesses to stand out, reach more people, and convert big. Now, her mission, however, is to help 100,000 kids from disadvantaged communities all around the world to find hope, meaning, and purpose in life through sports. And I really love that, and I want to hear more about that, in the interview today. Now, to make this mission a reality, she is donating, and her businesses are donating 10% of the revenue to relevant organizations and charities in this space. So with that said, Amber, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. Welcome to the interview. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. And thank you for having me, Robert. I'm really excited, actually.
I'm excited as well. So Amber, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, and how did you get started into your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, sure. You see, for myself, it was almost 13 years ago. I was actually in a ladies' room at the HSBC headquarters. I was working in corporate at that time in Canary Wharf in London, on 37th floor, holding a pregnancy test stick in my hand, waiting for the results to pop up on that small digital screen, which would tell me if I was expecting a second child at that time. And it turned out I was. And that day, everything changed for me. The steps that I took from that day onwards, the decisions that I made, was the start of an unexpected roller coaster of a journey for me personally. And I knew that much, that nothing was going to be the same anymore. Things would have to change, and they did. I mean, having kids does that to you. Becoming a parent, as they say, is a blessing. But becoming a mother, on the other hand, means getting used to sleepless nights, enduring, pain of childbirth, backaches for years to come, and a lifetime spending shouting at your kids, pick up your shit. I ain't cleaning up after you, but she always does. So, I mean, I like to think now that I'm this hotshot who knows her shit, who knows what she's doing, and has everything down pat, but that is not who I really am. You see, a lot of people online don't know this, that I grew up in a male-dominated culture and in a family where women only played housewives, childbearers, and cooks. So that was what was expected of women. So every time I shared a dream or a plan as a child, I was met with replies like, what does it matter? What's the point? At the end of the day, you'll be making chapatis, which are round breads for your husband anyway. So, what's the point? Why dream big? And my parents are lovely people. I love them to the bits, but they're like everybody else, felt bound by cultural constraints. But what I absolutely knew then and believed in was that somehow, someday, I was going to break free of those shackles. I knew that I would have to carve my own path, even if that meant taking risks of speaking against the norm, doing things unexpected of a girl in my culture, like playing cricket with boys in the street. And you see, the desire to live the life on my own terms sowed its seeds in me from a very young age. At the age of 16, I left. By the way, I grew up in Pakistan, and at the age of 16, I left Pakistan for Australia, leaving everything and everyone behind in search of freedom. Freedom from the cultural shackles of what I should be wearing, what I should be doing, what I should be saying. But it wasn't until years later when I decided to screw my 9 to 5 after finding out that I was expecting our second child. I knew the time for working ridiculous hours, doing something I didn't enjoy while commuting 15 hours a week on London Underground, packed like sardines, was over. And just like when I knew when I was 16 that you have to make the change you want to see in your life. And that's where my journey to entrepreneurship actually began.
Wow, that's amazing. That just, thinking about like being 16 and leaving your hometown and just moving, did you move by yourself to Australia? Wow, that's big. I mean, just making that decision to basically say, hey, bye-bye guys, like I'm on my own, right? So that probably has been a very impactful and, life-shaping time for you.
It was immense because I left all the luxuries in life that I had because I valued freedom a lot more. I wanted to be able to say, do things and wear things that I like, that I wanted to, not be told that I can't because because of what the society thinks, what the culture boundaries are. It sort of restricted my creativity, you could say.
Wow. And what changed then as you got your second child, whereas you got your first child? Like, why didn't you go into entrepreneurial journey in the first child then?
I think I was too young. I was, 23 when I had my first child. And even at that time, it was more about, we've got to sustain our family. Okay, just do whatever you can, And I was just fresh out of uni, just get the first job, get your foot in there, you have to learn before you could do something, right? You have to figure out what your skills are and get some experience. And then along the way, you kind of figure out, okay, is this it for me? Is this not? And I think that's what it was, that with my first child, it was much more about, we were a newly married couple, we got to figure things out for ourselves. We had a mortgage to pay. And by second child, it became more apparent to me that, I cannot go on like this, looking after the family, looking after the kids and working stupendous hours and spending more time traveling actually, and I knew at that point that this wasn't the life I wanted to live.
Fantastic. And congratulations that you got, that you did so many amazing things that a lot of people would definitely be too afraid of doing, because like first, moving to Australia when you were 16, then obviously, getting a child early on is obviously not an easy task at all. Like I really have so much respect for a lot of people that are becoming parents at an early age, because I couldn't imagine being a father right now, being 24, like that would be, I'm definitely not ready yet for that. So, congratulations on that. So what did you do then, as you got your first, child basically, and you said, all right, no more, something has to change. And what did you get started with, in your entrepreneurial journey?
Well, funny you asked that, because a lot of people wouldn't know that. I started off, there was a lot of ventures I've been a part of, probably like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5. But, you start off thinking, you think, oh, I think this is what I can do because I've seen it work. And maybe it's easy for me to do it. So I think the very first thing I started doing was actually selling Asian boutique clothing from my home.
Interesting.
And because I knew that I could source it very cheaply from back home. So I knew that I could keep the costs down that way. And it was something I knew that people living in this country had come from abroad. And there's like millions of Asians live here. And there was a big market who shop for these clothings for different occasions, celebration. Right. So I knew there was a market. I didn't know too many people at that time though. But that was my first venture. And I still remember getting my first 50 quid earning through my own business. And to this day, that was probably one of the happiest moments of my life, earning my first 50 quid.
I bet like this first money, the first commission that you make, especially also when you're building an online business, like the first affiliate sale that you make, it feels so magical because it shows you like, whoa, this actually works. Like there is something in there that I can do in order to be making money in return. And I don't need to basically, slave myself away, from 9 to 5, at a job that I really do not enjoy. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
how long have you been then doing that of, selling, Asian boutique clothes before moving to the next venture?
I think it was a couple of years, and then I sort of realized, no, that it doesn't really fulfill me. Yeah, maybe it was a nice side hobby thing, you could say, side hustle kind of thing, and then I started. Well, actually, this was a little bit before you could say the internet was quite common, meaning we didn't have moving up from dial-up. So dial-up was very slow. You couldn't really do online business with dial-up. But so at that point, broadband has started coming in, and I started selling. eBay and Amazon were just starting off initial years, and I got in early because I was an early starter. So I started selling on eBay and Amazon, and at that point, it wasn't even like you had to know about SEO. You had to put exact targeted work. I did nothing. Because we were early starters, right? We would just put an item, put it up for sale, and it would go.
Wow.
It would, nice. Apparently it was coming up in the searches. People must have been searching for it. And I've sold random stuff that people could not have searched for. Really, they could not have searched for.
Wow.
Because I bought ornaments from abroad, and you wouldn't even know how to describe it. You could just call them ornaments or interior design stuff. There's no way to even describe it. And those things were getting found, and people were buying it.
That's crazy.
So I guess that was the start of my online experience with the online world, selling online.
That's
not
awesome.
So much marketing. I had not learned marketing by that time, but it was a start in the online world.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Like, I can only imagine like how amazing times back then. Like, even though we have more possibilities right now, but now it's like harder to sell online because there's just so much information and stuff out there, and you really have to dig deep into who you want to reach, who is your audience, what is their problem, how can I solve that problem. And back then it was just like throw anything at the wall and people will buy. It sounds so much fun, actually.
It was pretty much, I was pretty much selling everything. I had no niche. I would actually go to the home shows, where everybody comes to market their own products. And I would go to these home shows once a year, whichever one was locally available. And I would buy stuff cheaply, because I knew I was getting a good bargain. Right? Even water fountains. You wouldn't believe the garden fountains. Wow. I bought loads of them cheaply, and I was selling them off for double the price on eBay and Amazon. And
that's amazing.
It was wonderful while it lasted.
Exactly. And then while you're talking at it, like obviously things changed then over the years. Google made it more harder to be found. eBay made it hard to be found. So what did you then got into, because obviously you now had a sort of like experience selling online, you got into having an online business. What came next?
What came next was actually, I was still in my 20s, so I was seeing a lot of youngsters getting into startups, and I was buzzing, even though at that time I think even my second child was here as well, so I had 2 kids. But I guess I was inspired by these youngsters around me, who were doing more. They were being creative with their thinking. They wanted to start new ventures. So at that time, Groupon came. Groupon and its competitors. I've forgotten their names because I don't even use these deal sites anymore. But I used to years ago. I used to use them a lot. And so the deal sites was a big thing. It was just starting off. So I decided, well, okay, I think this area looks good to me. I had done my research that it's this area is booming. So I was like, okay, that's it. I'm going to create a deal site. I want to start this venture. I obviously needed a team, and we came up with the niche of just selling green, healthy, organic products. So it will be like a Groupon for healthy products. At that time, there was nobody there. I think we had one competitor. But nobody else was there. It was just starting off these group, but many came afterwards. But what I did realize for that, actually, I went to Google Campus Startup Weekend. They were doing funding for pitches in London at that time. So I went there in Google Campus. I formed my team. I just met people. We just clicked. We formed a team, and we pitched to the Startup Weekend founders and stuff. We didn't get any funding at that time, but it was a great experience of meeting the right people, coming up with the idea, pitching it. And we knew it had legs. But what I didn't know at that time was that this business is all about funding. So unless you have a huge amount of funding, we're not going to be able to do much, because there are other businesses, like you can start off without having any capital. And I want people to know this, that do not think that you need a huge amount of capital to start off with, especially with service-based businesses, or even if you know how to create websites, you can create that business without spending too much, right? But this business, what I'm talking about, was all about numbers, because you could only make money in it if you had a huge database of customers, which means which was what Amazon did, right? They spent shitloads of money to acquire customers, and they were making loss for many years, because their whole aim was to grow big as quickly as possible, and then they knew they were going to make money once they have the majority of the customers compared to their competitors. So I knew to build that kind of business, we would have to be constantly fundraising a lot of money. We're talking about millions here, right?
Wow. Okay.
So I guess at that time I had met a mentor in London, and talking through, I realized that this is not the kind of business I want to get into with a family, Maybe it was okay for youngsters who were single at that time, who didn't have much responsibilities. We had 2 mortgages, 2 kids. So there was a lot going on. And I decided, no, at that point, you had to think about what's important to you. What is important to you? For some people, maybe getting to 1 million very quickly is very important. For us, it was more about comfortable living and being able to balance the lifestyle. I didn't want to go work for someone. I wanted to work for myself and still be able to maintain a lifestyle where we are comfortable with the money that we have. I'm spending time with my kids, and life's not hectic. So that was the point when I decided, okay, this venture has to go. Somebody else can take over, and I'd move on.
Yeah, and I love what you said, because freedom is the driving force for a lot of people. Like that's why a lot of people go into entrepreneurship and build their own businesses, to have more time, especially when you are wanting or planning to have a family. That's, for me, for example, like definitely a driving force, to be having this free time, to be able to see my kids growing up, to be able to spend time with them, to get to see how they first start to walk and start to talk. Because if you're working 9 to 5, oftentimes like parents miss those moments, which are so precious, obviously. So I love that freedom was a driving force for you as well. And sometimes, like, you don't need to be making millions of dollars to sort of be happy, because money in the end is just money. It will allow you to, get luxury things, but in the end, the real fulfillment is doing the things that you love. And I think you found that out, fairly early on, right?
Yeah.
So how did you then got into finding like your zone of genius, or realizing this is what fulfills me and this is what I want to do sort of for the rest of my life?
I think, as I started to explore the online world a lot, I realized that that I need to acquire a lot, maybe few more new skills. Online marketing was new, and everybody was getting into it. They were learning about it, and I realized, okay, it's time to learn some new skills. Time to spend time maybe with some people who have been there. See mentors, or you just maybe read their books. I started actually I got into reading after years, because when I had kids initially, and during uni years, you're away from those kind of things. You're not into reading. I certainly was not into it until that point where I realized, okay, I need to learn more. I want to know more about me, what I can do. And I started picking up books, and one of the first ones, I think it was the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim.
Oh yeah, classic.
Yeah, and that just blew my mind, because at that point I didn't know much about the virtual world, and also about delegation, that you can actually there are companies out there you can delegate work to. I was like, wow. I was like, what is this? What is this new world? And that was, I guess, the start of it. I started learning more skills, acquiring more skills in marketing skills, business skills, even coaching skills, I guess, because coaching kind of started off with parenting for me. Because, you know,
you coach your kids in the end.
Connect. I became a parent first, and that's how I started hanging out in groups where there were other moms, and we would be there for each other, support each other. So coaching kind of aspect came from there, helping each other out. And then I eventually wrote a book on motherhood, which was years later. But actually, I released it 5 years ago when my daughter was born, my youngest.
Oh, nice.
And 4 months after she was born, we published the book. Okay. Which was in the making for a couple of years. But I guess, it started off from there, and my skills grew, my skill set grew, and I started offering those services. It just started off from there. Okay, I'll offer online marketing services, marketing strategy, business coaching to startups, youngsters, or people, or even mothers who wanted to, who had quit their jobs and wanted to get into some online business. And it just sort of grew from this, just slowly, slowly.
Yeah.
One step at a time.
Yeah, one step at a time. That's also very important, because obviously, people see this huge thing, this huge goal where they want to get to, and it's so intimidating, so frightening, because you are starting right here and you want to get right there. And now, like, this huge, road or journey to that seems so intimidating and so big. Yeah. So that's why, starting off small and then one step at a time, get to that point, is very, very important.
I think I would also like to add this for your audience, especially who are now thinking about getting into business, be it online or offline, and they may be overwhelmed at this point, right? And listening to everybody's stories, they may hear about a lot of failures or a lot of startups that they did, but then they moved on. And I want them to know that it is okay. It is okay to go on this journey, because you should look at this as an experience. Enjoy the experience, right? Because with every experience, you will learn lessons. You will learn lessons of what to do and what not to do next time, right? Absolutely. And if it's a matter of that you have to provide bread and butter for your family, then I always say to these people, have something solid going, maybe a part-time job that you're doing, and what you really want to do as a side hustle, until you're in a position to say, okay, I can give up my full-time work now or part-time work, because this seems to be going places. And I can just expand. I can now expand my business. So don't start off from this point that I'm here at the bottom and I have to get up there straight away, or within 6 months, give you 6 months. I've got to be making $1 million. And then you'll find out that it doesn't really happen that way. And so do not lose hope. This is the journey, enjoy the experience. Get something on the side if it's a matter of making bread and butter, and take it from there.
Yeah, that's definitely a good piece of advice for sure, to have something solid, by the side, and then just try yourself out, because I believe that so many people, they are a little bit afraid of trying things out and then fail and then move to the next one. But, it's sort of needed to find out what you are good at and what you really want to do, because as you did, you tried out many different things and you realized, right, this is not really for me. This is not suitable for my situation. And this is not really long-term for my family and all of that. So trying out different things, and then it's okay to quit this thing if it's really not really serving you, and you cannot see that, doing it, for the rest of your life, or, moving forward in your life. So definitely good piece of advice.
I mean, I was working full-time during all of these ventures that I spoke to you about. I was working full-time, and these were sort of, ventures that I knew that if they grow, then at that point, I would leave everything. But it just so happens for me, the turning point was when my second child was born, and I realized that, okay, I got to take some time off, think about it, and then start anew.
Yeah, fantastic. And you already spoke now that you wanted to acquire more skills and need to acquire more skills. So the question now is, what would you say is one of the most important skills a person should acquire if they want to get into business, or just live the best possible life?
I would say for anybody starting off right now, that you have to think, even though if you don't like it or you don't like the thought of it, initially you are a marketer, no matter what business you're in, especially as a small business owner. No matter what you do, what you sell, what types of products you create or services you create, at the end of the day, if you cannot market or sell your product, you do not have a business, period. And all of the small business owners start off as being marketers. The roles and responsibilities may change as the business grows, but that's the hat you absolutely need to wear in the initial stages of starting and growing your business. And I know it takes a lot of people off who are not into marketing or who may not have acquired those skills yet, right? And they think, oh my God, it's not something I want to do or I can do, but everybody can do. It's an acquired skill. You can learn those skills online. You can acquire them, and you don't have to, if you don't like it, you don't have to do it for too long. But initially, everybody's got to know the basics of it to ensure that they're able to market their products or services.
True. Yeah, it's sort of like the foundation of everything, right? Because if you do not market and you don't know how to market, like even if you want to outsource it at some point, you sort of still need to have like this foundation understanding of what is going on. So on one hand, people don't rip you off and charge you more than you should be charged for services that can be easily done, but also to understand what is actually going on behind that, because sometimes people can become successful in the short term, but they don't know what made them successful, and they cannot replicate that. So if something goes south now and something doesn't work, they don't know which part of it is actually not working, right? So understanding the foundations and learning marketing is definitely an essential skill. Right.
I'd like to give an example so that people can really get the good idea of this and something that they could relate to. Nowadays, all youngsters can probably see on Instagram, Snapchat, there are a lot of people with big following. You may call them influencers, but I think there was a very famous example of this girl. I don't know her name, but on Instagram, she had millions of followers. So, and at that point, she decided, okay, I'm going to create a label of my own. I think she created a T-shirt or something. Yeah. And she could not sell one. She had millions of followers, right? Really? And she couldn't sell one. And that is a basic lesson for everybody to know. Unless you understand how marketing works, on how to create a brand so that people can associate you with that brand. Doesn't matter how big your following is these days on social media, it may not work out at all. Yeah. And that is why I say it is very necessary to start off with understanding those strategies and acquire some of those skills. Don't worry too much about these huge followings. Once you've got the basics then you would know how to attract the right people to you. And they may even be a small number. That's okay. But they will buy from you.
Yeah, true. And since we're on the topic of marketing, let's talk a little bit more about the strategies. And, sort of you said, you need to have the basic things going. So what, in a way, are the basic things of marketing, and what should people specifically sort of learn? Obviously, there's marketing in general is a big thing, but inside of marketing, there are certain parts that are more important perhaps than others. So what are the key, aspects of marketing that people need to learn?
I think for majority of the startups or early stage businesses, I always suggest to them, and this was, sort of a learning lesson for myself as well, because initially I didn't know much about it. I thought, if you could create a very good product or service, which obviously every owner thinks, my product or service is awesome. Nobody is selling this. Nobody is offering this service, and you think, well, now I've created it. It's going to sell like hotcakes. Exactly. And actually, what you hear is crickets when you launch the product because nobody is buying it, and you're just wondering why isn't anybody buying this? Like, I've created this really awesome product or service, and nobody is buying it. And I learned this myself much later on. It's because until we'd learn how to differentiate our business from our competitors, we are basically swimming in the ocean with the sharks. All the other sharks are coming to us to bite us in our asses, and it's simply because we have not learned to create a point of difference. In marketing world, they also call it a competitive advantage. There's so many phrases.
Unique selling proposition and all of that.
Yeah, unique selling proposition, whatever. But it in all honesty, in simple words, it's just about creating a point of difference. So how can you differentiate your product or service from your competitors? And there are many strategies on how it can be done, and we have seen how very famous brands have done it. But it's first realizing that you have to create a point of difference to be able to stand out, and you start from there. You don't even have to. You may not have even created a new product or service, yes, but you're thinking about something. You have some idea what I want to create, and then you research your competitors to ensure that now you're going to create something that is different from them that will help you stand out, and that will change the perspective of the prospects you are trying to reach.
And speaking of prospects you're trying to reach, obviously that's another big point to find out, like, who do you want to serve and what is your audience, right? And how can people do that? Like, how would you sit down and think about, like, all right, so what's the audience I want to reach?
So I think the easiest way to do that, and this again, I learned from my own mistakes, and because you hear a lot of different gurus tell you different things, and you think, okay, I need to spend some money to get the kind of audience that I want, or reach the audience that I want, and I've spent hundreds and thousands on Facebook marketing, and not realizing that there was actually an easier way. By easier, I mean that it is more economical if money is an issue, which is for most people starting out, that capital is restricted, right? And you want to spend it on obviously things which are necessary and not on things that you can get away with. And marketing, you don't have to spend dollars initially starting off to get people to know about your product or service. And that's why I say the most economical way is to sell your product or services to someone who already has your audience. So if you already know, for example, if I want to sell, I've come up with a new type of toothbrush, a new type of electric toothbrush, right? And I knew I have created a point of difference. Like Oral-B has this, but I've created a point of difference. Maybe it's a new shape or whatever. Right? So I know I've got a product. I may not have created it, but I've got an idea. I know this is what I want to create. Okay, so who can I sell it to? Now you think about who would like to buy this toothbrush? Well, Oral-B customers, or other McLean's, the toothpaste customers, people who are already buying dental products, dentists who sell these products, right? So now you have to figure out what are the markets, and there may be different markets, a lot of markets. So one market is dentists for that. The other markets, it's people actually using dental products. So they could be toothpaste, toothbrushes, dental flosses, right? And all of those have different companies who are selling it, right? Then you can niche down to bloggers. Okay, those companies are huge. You cannot partner with them. Okay, who is talking about it? Well, bloggers are talking about it. Podcasters are talking about it. YouTubers are talking about it, right? So, and then you go and check out their channels, their following, and you figure out, okay, actually they've got a following already, right? And you approach them to do some sort of partnership with them. If it's a YouTuber who talks about dental hygiene all the time, let's say he talks about dental hygiene all the time, and you see he's got a good enough following, right? You can approach that person, and they'll be more than happy to do some sort of partnership with them, because there's something in it for both the parties, right? You have to obviously think about that. There has to be something in it for both the parties. And you just approach and say, well, I've come up with a new type of toothbrush. Your audience seems to care about dental hygiene. How about we do this together? We launch this product, for next 7 days, we split it, whatever kind of arrangement you have with them. And this way, you have not spent actually money marketing because you're using somebody else's distribution, right? You have brought product and brand. You need 3 things, by the way, for a partnership to work. You need product, brand, and distribution. So you're bringing product, you're bringing your brand, you don't have distribution yet, right? That's why you're going to somebody else who already has the distribution, the audience, and you partner up with them, say, let's do this together, we'll split the profits, whatever. And and get it out. Now, once you get it out, now you start building your own list. You start building your own list. People get to know about your product, your brand, and your point of difference. And if they can see your point of difference, right, the word would spread. It's called, social media, word of mouth. It will spread because there's a point of difference, right? But if there isn't, even if you sell some initially, afterwards people will be like, well, what's the difference? I could get this one, this one, this one. This one is actually cheaper, right? So I'll just go for that, right? If they cannot see the point of difference. And that's why I see the point of difference is very important before you even start marketing your product or service.
Yeah, that's a really good approach, because obviously that's, getting traffic or getting people to your product that you create is like, after creating it, it's probably one of the hardest things that you can do to really, get the word out there and get people to see your product. I experienced that myself, in my online journey, where I would come up with something and I want people to see that and I want to spread the word, and people, should buy it and all the time. And that's sort of where like the biggest struggles have been. But using that sort of approach and that strategy of just going where the traffic already is and just like tapping into that and giving value for all the sides, basically, because you get value, you get a benefit, the people get a new toothbrush that is absolutely amazing, and the people that have the channel or whatever, they also get a benefit of just launching that together, right? So people should really think about like, where is already the traffic that I want to tap into, and how can I approach them and get something like a win-win situation for all of them, right? Yeah.
I think even this strategy still is very, even though it's been there for decades and decades, but majority of people do not utilize this very well. To this day, I still have conversations with people I meet, prospects I'm trying to do JVs with, and sometimes this concept is alien to them, and they're still not open to it. They're so close-minded. They're still not open to it, not realizing the benefits for both the parties, for both the brands, that how quickly they can grow, and quickly they can grow their own database and reach by doing this exercise, by using this marketing strategy, instead of always spending your own money from your own pocket. And I mean, that's good. If you've got a lot of money, you for sure invest in money in marketing, and so that you could reach more people quickly. But this is for sure the fastest way to reach your ideal audience.
And sometimes, a lot of people that have this huge audience, they don't know how to monetize it properly, right? Because I see so many YouTubers out there that are not utilizing sort of their audience that they have, in the descriptions, they're not, offering anything. And I'm like they simply have no idea how to monetize their following. Exactly. So if you have the product and you have the brand, but you lack the traffic, then you guys can work together and you can help each other out, right? Because they, they have the following, they have the traffic, but you have the product, you have the skills and knowledge to monetize that. So you can guys, work together and, figure something out. So that's definitely a great approach that, as you said, is still sort of like undervalued, and people, don't use it as often, I believe. That's crazy. Yeah, absolutely.
But I think with what's happening, coronavirus thing, and everybody going online, I think you will see more and more of this people, because it's downtime for everyone. We are in another economic crunch with with companies closing down, people losing jobs, and people will have to get more creative in these times. And you may see a lot of people now using this strategy to help rise each other up. We rise together, and this is the best way to help each other grow and rise together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually, because you just mentioned the whole situation, people are losing jobs, and I just read somewhere, I don't know where it was, but like the term how to make money online sort of like doubled or tripled in the past, week or two, because obviously now people are desperate, like, unfortunately, because they don't have a job, they need to be making money. And, that's, can be utilized, I would say, but obviously don't take advantage of it, but, help people genuinely how they can be making money online. That's a time where a lot of people can, unfortunately, really take advantage of that. And that's absolutely shady, and you should not do that. But on the other hand, you can help actually people, create a business line. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think great time to create value, like you said.
Yeah.
This is the time, if we can be of value to others who are in desperate need, then for sure, in better time, 6 months, 12 months time, who is the person they're going to remember, right?
Exactly.
They actually do have the money to spend, then the person who valued them and who gave them value for nothing in return, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is the time to sort of raise your profile online, build your influence, give value, and in time you will see the rewards of it.
Absolutely agree. So Amber, we talked a little bit about your obstacles, or sort of where you failed, I would say, and you sort of like jumped from a little bit here, a little bit there to the next thing. So what were some other obstacles that you once you figure out, all right, I want to sort of like provide services to people and I want to help them, build their businesses, build their audience, find, who they want to be. What were some of the other, obstacles that you had and learnings that you learned from those obstacles?
I think, and everybody's circumstances are different, but for majority of people, they will find, especially, if they have young families, usually the first obstacle is not having enough support. And for me personally, that was the case because I had moved to a new country. Within a year, I had my first child, no friends, no family here in London. So lack of support was a huge barrier. To starting anything. Because I had a job as well. So you got to go to the job, which means you have to pay for childcare. Right. Plus you have a mortgage. So there is, there's lots going on that you have to juggle while you're still thinking about, okay, I've got to invest in myself and my business as well. And so for me, the lack of support was one, lack of finances was second one, because at that time I had my second child when I went on maternity leave, and it was 2006, late 2006, early 2007. That's when the financial crisis happened. And we had just bought a new house. We had just got a new mortgage. Mortgage. So, and I went on maternity leave. So my salary was going, pretty much. And after that, I quit anyway. I think, and a lot of people would be able to associate with this, the lack of support, family or friends, lack of finances initially. And sometimes it's also the lack of skills, but thankfully in these days and times, acquiring those skills is not costly, not difficult. Everything's out on YouTube. Even if you do not have the money to spend on a high amount courses or mentorships, start off with just YouTube. Start off with YouTube, acquire some basic skills of, how to provide digital services, for example, to small businesses. How can I do social media marketing for them? Or how can I manage their Facebook pages? How can I maybe do Facebook advertising for them? How can I do email marketing for them? Can I set the email automation up for them? Okay, maybe that's what I want to do. Okay, let's learn about how to use this tool. Let's say I use ActiveCampaign. But, there are many tools out there. You just say, okay, I'm going to learn how to use ActiveCampaign. I'm going to learn how to set up automations. Go to YouTube. Learn it, do some, maybe buy some small digital courses if you have to, learn how to do set up automations, and then you can start providing that service. And I guess for me personally at that time, there weren't as many resources online. Certainly there were, yes, and that's why I started off with books. And then eventually mentorships. But of course, there were hurdles all the way, right? I actually joined an accelerator, a business accelerator. And that meant, not only it required a lot of money, but it also required managing where do I leave the kids? I have to go there, spend whole days there, or sometimes in the evenings, who's going to look after the kids? And I've got a job as well, I have to go to work as well, right? So there are hurdles, and I'm not the only one. There's millions of people who can associate exact same thing with their lifestyles. Their circumstances would be a lot similar, maybe sometimes even worse. For single parents, it's even worse. And my heart goes out to all of those single parents, because they've got it even tougher than I did. I have a partner, and for them it's even worse. So we all have to realize that we will face these obstacles, but it's not the end. There is always light at the end of the tunnel, and we just have to find that light. We just have to be able to craft that journey. Okay, so we've now hit this hurdle. How do we get over it? What resources can I use? So for example, I didn't have family or friend support to look after I didn't know grandparents, nobody, no siblings, nobody was here that I could leave my kids with, or who could pick them up from school if they fell sick, and so I knew, okay, that support isn't there, but okay, we can pay for nurseries, we're earning, let's put them in childcare, they'll go there, right? It just means, okay, fine, if they're sick, nobody else can pick them up, we'll have to tell our employers this is the situation, and we'll manage. So you just take one step at a time. You don't think about all of those hurdles that you think you're going to face, and then be overwhelmed by it and think, okay, I bet I might as well not start this. I might as well not do this because it's too much. I don't even know how I'm going to be able to manage. But as humans, we learn and adapt. As we face a hurdle, we figure out, okay, how I'm going to manage this. How am I going to get over this hurdle? And then you do, and then you move on, and maybe later on you'll hit the next one. And that is life. That is life. And we learn at each point how are we best able to get over it by looking at the resources that are available to us. And I guess asking for help. These days we can ask for help online. Be in the groups where there are supportive groups who can help you out. Even if it's just not help you out financially or physically, but help you out mentally to get over that obstacle.
Exactly. And I believe like a lot of people, I don't know if they're afraid to ask for help, or they're too, their ego is stepping in their way, or they have too much pride that they think that they want to do it all by themselves. But it's okay to ask for help, right? And this is something that I have seen once I started the podcast, where I am talking to people, way more up than I am, right? That people are genuinely helpful and they want to help you. Like if you really have the drive to, succeed and inspire other people, like, even though you can't offer them anything, they will be glad to help you because they know, their advice can help not only this person, but because of that, this person will in turn help others, to grow positivity and inspiration, to the world, right? So I love that. And also one thing that you said is, being able to adapt. I think that's also a very, very important life skill, because for a lot of people, once, an obstacle appears, once a challenge appears, they sort of, fall down, crumble themselves up, and they're like, oh, life is so tough. Why is this happening to me all the time? But once you're able to adapt to those situations and be able, like, all right, this is the situation, this is the challenge that I have. How can I overcome that? And once you can, like, have that skill of adaptation and being able to overcome those obstacles, and realizing, this is also a saying that I really love, is that, this obstacle is just a chapter. It's like not the whole book, right? And same with this crisis right now, that a lot of people think like 2020 is over, and we thought this is going to be the best decade of our lives, so they think that this is the whole book. But for me, it's just a chapter. It's going to be a couple of months, but it will be over. We will get over it, and we will grow through that situation, right? So sort of seeing things like that, it's very, very powerful.
You said it absolutely correctly, that this is only one small chapter in your life. This is not your whole life. This does not define us. What's happening currently around the world doesn't define us, but it sure does help us think about where we are going, because this is the time to reflect. We're all at home, we're all stuck at home, we know that times are dire, people are dying, and it's time to reflect. It's time to reflect what best can we do in this world to make a difference in this world, to make even just one person's life better. And for me, I personally see this time as development of my spirituality. For me, this is to think back and develop more spiritually in these times.
That's awesome. And you said obviously lack of support is a big obstacle, and that's totally something that a lot of people have. And I believe also, or like, how did you deal with that? Because obviously you were 16 and you said to your family, I'm leaving and I'm gonna go on my own. And I see a lot of youngsters or people that want to start a business, that the family and the friends are not supportive at all. They're like, hey, probably this is just a scam. Don't do that. You will fail. You will, burn all your money, and they don't believe in you. And that lack of support of your family and friends, and that can obviously have a big impact on you and on your thinking and on you taking actually action. So how can people deal with that when nobody is really believing in them and in their journey or their business idea?
Yeah, it's a great question. And most of us starting off in any business, whether online or offline, face this. I mean, to this day, I cannot, my parents really don't know what I do. And I can't, I can't explain it to them either, because they're from a generation where this online business thing does not make sense. It's like, what is this? You sit at home all day, and so, and I can so relate to this. So, so I guess for millennials and Gen Z, it's going to be easy because their parents at least know about this online world. But again, it's still very hard for majority of parents to realize that there are careers and opportunities out there which are different to your normal careers, like becoming an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, accountant. I have these conversations with parents all the time, and we head horns all the time. It's because they're still in that thinking bubble that the only career that their kids can have and should have, because they want their kids to stand on their own feet, is like they shouldn't be doctors, going to best universities, or engineers, and go to top universities. They still talk about going to top universities, Cambridge, Oxford, Harvard, and very good if your child has that academic ability, and for sure you should encourage it. And if they can get into it and they know exactly this is what they want to do, go for it. Because we all need doctors, lawyers, and accountants as well.
Sure.
But the point being, that's not the only thing, especially in today's day and age. There are so many opportunities for kids to explore, youngsters to explore. And I guess what your question was that, they face that obstacle, and how can they help themselves and other people understand that, they have a different vision. And I guess for youngsters, I would say, that, best way, if you find that your family and friends are not supported, then find a group, be it online, who has not only supporters, but the kind of people who are doing what you want to do. On Facebook, we have many of these groups. I'm part of many of these groups as well, where I find solace in those groups. I'm just there because I know there are people, like-minded people in there, and we can talk about anything, right? Without hesitancy, without being, without the fear of being judged, right? And so be a part of those groups. Online, if offline you can find them, go for those. But online, find those groups where like-minded people are hanging out, and you can talk about these issues that you're currently facing, obstacles you're facing, without being judged, without being told, well, you should have got a degree, go to college, go to school, you should have got a degree, go to school, go do this, because these are people who are in similar situations, and some maybe are a step ahead of you or two steps ahead of you. And they could guide you in a much better way. But not only guidance, you need that mental support. It's absolutely vital to have that mental support, because otherwise you're going to break down, stress will kill you, and you're probably not going to end up going anywhere, and that's why it's utterly important to have these exercises, which is for mental health, to be part of a group who are like-minded people, and to practice spirituality at some level, meditation, whatever that comforts you, whatever you do. But to have that practice on daily basis, I feel is vital, especially for somebody who works from home or in a solo space where you're not surrounded by a huge team. You know, solitude sometimes can be quite daunting. You know, and so you have to have those practices in place to keep yourself not only motivated but keep yourself sane.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree. Because like this whole journey can be a lonely one if you let it to be, right? Because we are sitting at home, like in front of our computers. And even if you are talking to people or in some way you are reaching people with your message, you are still not having that, you know,
interaction,
deep connection and interaction with somebody, and you feel like you are being understood, right? Because that's obviously a need that we as human beings want to have, as being understood and genuinely being understood, not just like sharing what you have on your mind, but actually the other person caring about what you are saying and understanding that, right? So I totally agree with you that finding a group of people that are like-minded and that actually are genuinely interested in what you do will help you a long, long way. Because I've realized that, you know, at the beginning as well, like I'm so grateful that my parents and my family was always very supportive of this journey. Like very early on, I told them what I'm doing and they're like, this is the right way, because it seems like, you know, you have fun doing it. And my mom is a doctor herself. So I thought that I'm going to become a doctor myself for like 15 years of my life. And it was a huge shock when I told her that this is not what I want to do, but I realized she wants me to do that, you know? And then obviously I saw how much she had to work and how much responsibility she had. And it was just like dawning her down, and like the energy that she had after a day of work was just like near zero. So she was obviously glad that I didn't follow through, you know, with that decision, but actually found something that can give me, you know, a return on my time, you know, in the long run as well. So I'm just like super grateful that I had that. And I wish for a lot of people that they find this group of people that really support them, because it's, you know, as you said, it's vital and it's important to, you know, just keep yourself sane in this time. Because it's a long journey. It's a long journey.
It's a long journey. And the journey of learning never stops, actually.
Absolutely.
You know, that, you know, we are all learning every single day, probably till we take our last breath, you know. So the learning never stops. And that is the beauty of it, you know, because I think that the time the learning stops, it actually makes you think that you are somebody, that nobody is better than you, and you know, and that's not the space you would want to be in, you know.
True.
The pride will kill you.
Exactly.
And so you would always want to be humble. Doesn't matter how much you grow, because there's always something new to learn and learn from others. Sometimes the best lessons we learn are actually not from the people we expected. We think that the only lessons we can learn in life are from people who have made millions, you know, Bill Gates, you know, Jeff Bezos, you know, these kind of people. But sometimes the most humbling lessons you learn are the people you didn't expect them from, you know. And can I share a story?
Yes, absolutely. Please do.
For your audience. For me, I think the most humbling experience was, you know, a lot of people who are looking for fulfillment and happiness in life, and they feel, okay, you know, maybe they're short on money and they're thinking, okay, if I get the $1 million, my life will be set. You know, my life will be set. I'll be happy. I can afford this car that I want. I can have this house that I want. Whereas we know we see people all around us who have millions still committing suicide, drug issues, all those things. Why is that? When they've got millions and billions, you know, exactly. Why would they end their life or destroy their bodies by taking drugs and stuff? And so you realize that, okay, maybe money isn't fulfillment, right? And what is? And you know, because I grew up in Pakistan, you know, and I saw a lot of poverty around me. And, you know, and I used to visit, you know, these families, these places where they have nothing, you know, in my mind, thankfully, you know, we were very well off, but the family, but, you know, you would see these people and you think, okay, they don't have much in material world. So you would think, okay, let's help them, you know, and we would try to help them. Okay, let's buy them this, let's buy them this. And they would be offended. They would be offended that you think that I need these things to be, and I couldn't wrap my head around it. I was like, what is this? How is it possible? How is it even possible that they do not want these things in their life? They're happy. And, you know, And they would, even when they have nothing, they would invite you into their houses to share a meal with them. To me, I found that mind-boggling. I could not wrap my hand around it, my head around it, that how's it even possible? And I realized just spending time with them, learning from them, that, I would ask them, how is it even possible? And then, I saw that they didn't look at obstacles as that's the end of life. Every time they would face a problem or an issue, they would think, okay, it's okay. We will get over it and life will be fine after it. It's just a short time period that we're going through bad times, and it will pass. It will pass. All bad times and good times are temporary. So they don't last forever. So just that thinking, that, okay, we are in bad times right now. We're going through some bad shit. And they would be like, it's okay. We'll find a way to get through it. And we'll be fine, and life will be just as it was. But this is not going to stop us from being happy, from being with each other, and caring for each other, doing things for each other. It was a huge, huge humbling lesson in life for me, and how I should value fulfillment and happiness in my life. Sorry, wow. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. And I know this is a very, very powerful lesson, that this is very powerful thinking, in the end of knowing, like, this thing will pass, going back to, it's just a chapter, it's not the whole book. And I believe that one reason why I'm always so optimistic is because I have that thinking, like, from a very early age on, where I know, like, whatever is going to come, like, I will find a way to deal with that. Like, it's not going to be the end. And, really learning that thinking and learning that skill is so incredibly powerful, and it will definitely, help people overcome a lot of those obstacles and not break down and, not be so stressed out about it. Right? Because if people cannot deal with stress, they will eat it up all the time. And at some point they will break. Exactly. Right. So thank you so much for sharing with that. So we are getting close to the end of the interview here. And, since we are already perhaps like on the story of, like your best experience, there's always one question I love to ask by the end of the interview, because there's always great answers to that question. And that is, if you were, be able to teach the entire world, like, one single concept, one single mindset or thought that they would understand to make the whole world a better place, what would it be?
For me, it's one and very simple. Is to think about giving back first. And, I've had a lot of conversations around these with a lot of people from different thought groups, and a lot of people would say, okay, first you got to make the money. Okay. Because when we have the money, we can help somebody else out. Okay, yes, for sure. We can help more people out when we have the money. And certainly we have the responsibility as well to do so, because now we have the wealth. We better do something with it, better help each other out, because the responsibility is on our shoulders now. But even when you don't, and again, these are life lessons. I learned it by watching other people. These are not, not my own. I learned it from watching other people growing up. I saw this lady who used to live across our street, and she was a widow with 5 kids, 5 young kids, right? Wow. And so they were pretty much living sort of hand to mouth, but I would still see her giving charity every year. Until, so she would have nothing. So whatever stuff that she could sell, which was in her house, she would sell that. The money that she would get from it, she would give it to charity. At the end, she was left with, she had some gold bangles. And there was last one left on her arm, on her hand. And she was selling one by one everything just so she could give back to charity. I couldn't understand that. I was like, keep the money for yourself, that again, such a humbling experience I learned from that you do not have to have a lot of money to be able to give back. And we're not just talking about monetarily helping other people. In her life, I saw it. She did that because she believed that in karma, she believed that good comes back. So she was doing it because she believed, when I help somebody else, I know God will do good things for me, and for sure he did. I saw years later her boys doing brilliantly, and now they do very well, right? But they had to go through that tough time. right? But I believe that because of the good that she did in this world, that she was rewarded for it in many different ways. And so I firmly believe in that we can give back through our time. We can give back by smiling at people, giving them a good service, by helping a old neighbor out, take the groceries to her house, small little giving backs on daily basis. Make it a daily part of your life to somehow give back to others, because the fulfillment that you get out of that is nothing compares to it. Nothing compares to it. You cannot compare I made 100,000 pounds today, to bringing a smile on someone's face. And however you did that, by feeding them, but by providing for the family, that feeling is out of this world. So I always say to people, think of it in a broader terms. Do not just think, okay, I've only got 100 quid, so how can I give something out of this to somebody else when I've got bills to pay? Okay, maybe monetarily you're not in a position to help somebody out yet, but there's so many other ways where we can give back, without wanting anything in return. Just to get that fulfillment in life and to bring a smile on somebody else's face, and then go about doing whatever we have to do in our daily life. So I believe in giving back is it's one of the biggest values in my life for my business as well. Freedom and giving back is of utmost importance, and I would like to see more and more businesses, more and more people make it a part of their value as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I believe that also once you start giving back, and whether that's just a smile, you can have a butterfly effect. And, it's going to create this butterfly effect where you're going to help somebody out, and then they're going to in turn help somebody out. And literally just a smile from you to somebody else is contagious. And they start smiling. All of a sudden, he smiles to 2 people, and those 2 people smile to 4 other people. And all of a sudden, we cannot grasp that, but we're going to have this huge effect on the whole world, that something that we can do can have a positive effect, it can go way beyond our thinking, how much of an effect we can have.
Oh yes, right? we can't see it yet, but
exactly,
the effect of it may multiply in so many different ways that you wouldn't even know. And that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it, that you will see in time how just doing one small thing became so huge. And is that also, because you learned so many, humbling lessons, and you saw so many people sort of in poverty, and realizing that helping is so important, is that why you also, made it a mission to help 100, kids from disadvantaged, communities, to help them in hope? Yeah, for sure. Because, growing up in these places, it gives you a very humbling experience. And I'm very grateful for that, because if it wasn't for that, maybe I wouldn't be so astute about these things, or I wouldn't think about these things as much. But because I saw it, I realized the importance of of the education and of food. Because if you do not have ample food to eat to survive, you cannot think about anything else in life, because your life just becomes about survival. I've got to get one meal of my day. It just becomes about survival. And I know that, in countries where, especially, war-stricken countries with conflict, there are kids who are suffering mentally because what they have seen, and also monetarily because they do not have much. But it doesn't mean that they do not have the right to progress in life. Right? And it is our responsibility to provide them whatever opportunity we can to them, so that they also have resources that they could use to then make their own futures. Of course, we can't help them make their futures, but we can provide them opportunities to so that they can also say, okay, now I have the resources, I can also make my life better, and then help others out with it. So I firmly believe in that. And for me, I guess, I've always worked closely with kids, and I wanted to start off from there, because kids are the most vulnerable of the society. Kids growing up in poverty, in war-struck zones, they are the most vulnerable. And if we can help them out, they can change the future for others in the community.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel that education and feeding those is one of my biggest missions in life.
That's fantastic, and I love that. Thank you so much for, I would say, your service, and how you are helping kids to become the future and do something great with their lives. So I love that. So Amber, if people want to find out more about you, or they want to reach out to you, how can they find you?
Well, I guess they can check out growbusiness.com if they're looking for marketing strategies for for somebody to help them stand out from their competitor, or if they're looking to reach more people through their content, they could check out repurposeden.com. And of course, they can email me, or I'm on LinkedIn. They can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way to reach me, and I do try to respond to all of my DMs. So yeah.
Great. All right. So guys, I'm going to link this in the description down below. So if you want to connect to Amber and, check out, her marketing things, or, you want to repurpose your content, you perhaps already have content and you want to use that to grow more, get a bigger audience, then, go ahead and check the links in the description down below. And yeah, with that said, guys, if you enjoyed this interview, then let me know in the comments down below, and also make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you get notified whenever I upload a new video and come up with a Your Best Self podcast episode. So Amber, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. I really enjoyed talking to you. You're an amazing, inspirational person. So thanks for everything that you do, and yeah, wish you all the best.
Well, thank you for having me.
Fantastic.